Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. First episode of March. It is March, which means a lot of things. March Madness is coming up. Can't wait for that. Spring is on the way, pretty much here from where I live, so that's good. No more gloomy days. Like I told you last episode, we saw the sun here for the first time in a while, in a consistent way. And not only does it make you want to go outside, it makes me actually want to travel. Because you can see everything. You can see from the horizon of what's out there. And what's out there for me is either beach or mountain. Thinking to myself, like, why don't I take a trip somewhere by myself? Whether it be a mountain or to the sea. Why just go by myself? I was thinking about this earlier. Like, what would I even do if I went to like the mountains by myself? I think that I would have a pretty decent time by myself. I do a lot of traveling, trips, vacations with family. But I never really thought to myself, like, what would I actually do if I went by myself? How long would I stay there? How long could I stay at the beach by myself? Hotel paid for. What would I do? Would I just lay on the beach all day? Possibly. Would I just sit at like a bench or something? Go eat like clam chowder all day? Is that what I would do? I don't know. I've always been like at these places with like either family or friends. So it's never really my sole decision on what we're supposed to do. What I would do. I probably would just lay on the beach as long as I could. I would probably also like forget to put on sunscreen and would like get totally sunburnt and be like in bad shape, because I'm not a person that thinks too much that, I can actually get sunburned, because I do sunburn. And it sucks because if I was to actually go to the beach by myself, I would definitely come back with a sunburn for sure, because I never really think that the sun is actually going to hurt me if I'm out there for too long, which I don't normally do. I don't go to the beach that often, but if I was to, I would probably forget that. And it would be just awful. Now, the mountains, a bit different. Probably go out up there, do a hike. But then again, mountains are much more scarier, I think, than the beach, because getting lost at the beach is, scary because there's a lot of people there, or there can be a lot of people there. You could probably get kidnapped or stolen. That's one thing. At the mountains, same thing. A lot of people there sometimes, maybe not as much as the beach, but nonetheless a lot of people. But also, what if you get lost in the woods? You get lost in the forest, and it's harder to be found there, I would assume, than a beach. Just because there's so many trees and rocks and caves and stuff. That'd be actually a lot more terrifying. I wouldn't actually want to be in the mountains per se, even, anywhere when it gets dark. But the mountains for sure, because there's no like city nearby. There's no town, at least depending on where you go in the mountains. I'm talking about like in the mountains, like Yosemite, right? Like a campground like that, where there's no town, not much electricity, not very good phone service. So that would suck. Getting lost in the mountains would be one of the worst ways to disappear, because it happens. People get lost in the mountains and they're never found. Or if they are found, they're not alive, which is never a good thing. So, I guess, if I was to go by myself, I would much rather prefer the beach, only because of it being more safer. I wouldn't want to be lost anywhere, of course, but mountains I think is always kind of scary, because animals, big meat-eating animals live in the mountains, right? When we used to go camping, even though, like, I was told that the black bears that live in Yosemite National Park would not hurt us because they were skittish and didn't like loud noises, I would still be extremely scared because you don't want to roll up on a bear. What if you roll up on a bear and it's a mother bear with cubs? She wants to pick a fight. Because then, once that happens, once the mother bear feels threatened or thinks that her cubs are being threatened, well, then it's over. Like, there's no way that you're going to catch me in the woods by myself on a hike. You should not. Let me clarify this. You probably should not go to the woods by yourself or the mountains by yourself. You should go with somebody. They always say hike with people. If you're going to go by yourself, you better know exactly what to do. Be prepared. Bear spray, pepper spray, whatever you need to defend yourself. But that was like the one thing that would always freak me out about going to camping when I was a kid was bears. The fact that we are going into a territory where wild bears and wild animals live is wild to think about. But we did it back then, and it was like totally like a summer thing that we would do. We just like, all right, let's go camping, all right, cool. But now that you think about it, when I'm like much older, it's like, dude, that's an insane thing to do. Going camping in a tent with wild animals, like a tent, like, right? You get in a tent, you build it, you set it up. It takes like, I don't know, an hour, right? Depending on if the people you set it up with know how to set up a tent. With all the poles and shit, you gotta lay down tarps. You gotta make sure the ground that you pick is flat. There isn't too much grass or foliage around there where it's gonna be, a hassle to put down. And there's all these different poles and different, spikes that you gotta put into the ground to make sure that your tent doesn't blow away. When I was younger, I would always try, to put as little effort as I could into building the tent because it always took so long. It took forever. It was always wrapped in like the smallest box that a tent could fit in, because you don't want to lug around like a giant ass box with a tent. No one would buy it. So what do? They make the box like 2 feet long by like half a foot wide, right? And they fit in a massive ass tent in there. And you're thinking to yourself like, oh, cool, this is so convenient. Let's set up the tent. You set up the tent, you're thinking to yourself, this is like a shield. This is a bubble. You think that. Your brain's like, oh, look at this, all this room I have. Oh, no bear's going to want to claw me through this. This is bulletproof. And then you're like, this is like just plastic. Like cheap plastic. Like the bear could easily claw through this and kill me if he wanted to. There's nothing else stopping it. There's no, special lining, no like titanium enhanced lining that can protect you from any claws or, sharp objects, stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, we're just going to sleep out here in the wilderness in a tent. I mean, I can't believe that people actually thought of that. Like, what can we make for people to sleep in the outdoors? Or how about a tent? It's just a plastic dome held up by sticks with a zipper, and that's it. Seems like, very outdoorsy, but if you're somebody who's not from the outdoors, and then you're like, let's go camping, let's go see nature. Oh, what do we got to stay in? This? Absolutely not. I am not going to stay in that. Now that I think about it, I could never probably camp again. I wouldn't have it in me to want to sleep outside amongst bears, lions, whatever's out there, wolves, coyotes, squirrels even. Jesus Christ. Like, I would not want to do that voluntarily anymore. And I even remember back then, like, we used to get dirty when we would camp, because you would step around the campground, right? And dirt would just be in the air. Dirt would be everywhere. You'd be so dirty after a single day of camping. And then you'd be like, oh, yuck. Like, I am just nasty right now. Disgusting. I don't feel good. I feel messy. And you would just want to take a shower. But where we used to camp, there ain't no shower for miles. And you're like, well, I don't want to drive miles just to take a shower, to come back and get dirty again. So what did we do? We held out for a few days. That's right. We held out for a few days. Really let it marinate. Get really stinky. It was horrible. After like a couple days, maybe 3, we would be like, all right, let's go take a shower. And we'd go take a shower, and it would be the best feeling ever. It'd be incredible, right? And then after we were done camping, we did our stuff. We slept with nature. We slept with the wild animals. What do? We had to put our tent away. And you know how I said that? I always put in the smallest packaging of all time. Most confined packaging where if you don't fold it correctly, if you don't fold it the right way, if you don't put the sticks in the right way, if you don't put the stakes away the correct and proper way, then it will not fit. And it would just be an absolute headache to make it fit because you wouldn't want to fold it again over and over again. Well, let me tell you this, man. Those packages that you get a tent in, I feel are only perfect the way that they were manufactured and shipped in that way. Because once you open it and once you try to put it back the way it was, it's almost damn near impossible. No matter what you do, no matter how tight you fold the tent, no matter how good you think you have it, it never goes back into that tiny packaging as good as it did coming out. Because when you're done camping and you want to go back home, you're not going to take the time to fold it perfectly back. You're just like, all right, let's get the fuck out of here. I can't tell you how many times that when we were going home camping or when we were about to go home from camping, that I just wanted to just put everything in the car as is, maybe like crumple it up into a ball, throw it in the back of the car and just get out of there. But no, they're like, you got to fold this because you're not going to want to fold it when you get home. Which at the end of the day, they were correct. I would not want to do that, but it was just hell on earth every time. And if you were lucky, if you thought ahead, you would go camping, you would also bring out an air mattress. And then you would have to pump that bitch up. And let me tell you this. That thing, you think a tent can never fit back in its packaging the way it came in. That thing, that air mattress actually is impossible to get it back into its package the way it came out. Impossible. At least with a tent, if it has like little zippy doors that you can unzip, that way air can come out when you fold it, that's kind of, clutch. That's where it comes in clutch. But an air mattress, there's no way for you to do that. It only comes out one way out of that nozzle. And if it's not perfect, you're going to have to keep doing it and folding it and crunching it and pushing all that air out. And it takes even longer. For some reason, they're heavy as shit too. I don't know why, but they are. And it's just like that thing will never fit in the box the way it came in. Never. It's impossible. So the bears always kind of freak me out about being in the mountains. But then again, there was another thing that I hadn't known was a real thing that lived in the mountains when I was a kid, up until like maybe I was like age 12. That was a mountain lion. A mountain lion, right? Like a cougar. And I was like thinking to myself, like, dude, you're telling me that we are straight up like camping in an area where there are mountain lions, like big cats that could kill us, Like I said, rangers and people who had camped there told us that the black bears were not really super aggressive unless they felt threatened, right? Okay, I can get behind that. That's fair. I don't think that same rules apply with mountain lions. I feel like those guys are super hyper aggressive, very territorial wanting to, keep keep their home their home, their space their space. So if you were to ever, accidentally walk up on them, they might actually be like claw you and kill you. Like there was a couple hikes that I went on when I was a kid where we were like kind of like scaling down a big mountain, right? And you can see that we were like on the edge of on the side of the mountain, just kind of scaling down in a corkscrew, right? And I tell you, man, you look up and you see like, the bushes and stuff, and you're like thinking to yourself, like, bro, like, if there was like a mountain lion right there in that bush, I would not have seen the fucker, and he has a perfect vantage point just to pounce on me and claw me if he wanted to. If he needed a meal, right, if he was super hungry, he could just pounce on there right now. You know how many caves that I have passed by that are on the trails of these hikes that you kind of pass by these giant rock structures and you see like, oh, that's a cave right there. And you're just thinking to yourself like, bro, like a bear, a wolf, a mountain lion, a coyote, Bigfoot, like one of those things could be living in that cave. And I have seen a few caves up in the mountains. I'm like, you kind of think like, should I shine my light or not? I never did, because I was thinking to myself like, well, if there is a beast in there, I shine my light on him, I'm going to see him, he's going to see me for sure. He's already seen me, and I see him, I might freak the fuck out, I'll be honest, and I might just be like, run away. I never did that, and I never went into, because it's like, you see a cave and you're like, nah, I'll pass, and you just keep walking. That always freaked me out, man. That always was one thing, was going on hikes, in the wilderness, not knowing what is around you, And I know it's like, a campground, right? Like it's a national park. So like there's wild animals everywhere, but it's not like it's like the straight up wild, or like there's no humans out there. Well, there's no people there. There's a lot of people in national parks. I mean, you see people walking up and down these trails every single day you're there. So it's not like there's no shortage of human beings and like people that, if there's animals, that they probably are trying to avoid you, as best they can. They don't want anything to do with you. They're fine, or you're fine, but it's still, kind of wild. It's still freaky because you don't know. You just don't know. And it was always like a pleasant sight to see actual like other people when you go hiking, because then the trail ahead is okay. There's no beasts there. There's no animals that are waiting for you at the finish line, like, oh, he's here, time to eat, stuff like that. So it was always reassuring to see other people. In fact, it was like it was a good thing to see other people. And I'm not saying like I went on a hike by myself. I was with a lot of people too, but your mind kind of plays tricks. You see enough movies, you see enough of these scenarios. I used to watch these animal shows of people who got mauled and attacked, and it was always because like they were hiking, they kind of veered off trail, and then boom, he was attacked. Some dudes get attacked on the trail. That's a public trail where people just go up there all the time. It happens, That stuff kind of gets in your head when you're in the wild like that. When you're in like, somewhere that you probably shouldn't be. At least modern day humans probably shouldn't be. Without the skills that we don't possess anymore. Because we don't really have any skills nowadays that we use on a day-to-day basis to navigate through nature, the wild. We just don't have that anymore. We used to, back when we didn't have cars or GPS or roads. Yeah, we had like passageways and routes that we would take to avoid predators and like, big animals and like bears and stuff like that. Like there was a time back in the day where the bear, like a grizzly bear, was like one of the most fearful things known to man. I'm pretty sure like when Lewis and Clark were like going west and they discovered the grizzly bear, maybe it wasn't them, but like some people discovered it on the way west of the United States. And I'm pretty sure like there's like passages that you can read, documentation that people, men, humans, like said, do not go this way because there is these bears that they have west, are beasts. They're like tanks, like our little muskets with like our ball bullets don't even kill it. So don't even go that way because this thing will murder you. Like there was a part in our human existence where we could not go with where grizzly bears were because we would die. We would be killed because these things were just so strong and massive we couldn't fight them off. That was a period of time. And I could only imagine, when it was like cavemen and Neanderthals, that those boys had to fight like mountain lions and short-faced bear, not mountain lions, but like saber-toothed tigers and short-faced bears, even bigger bears that aren't even living today. I mean, there's a lot of animals, don't get me wrong, that have gone extinct that were much more massive than the ones that we have today. Like, I think if you just go to YouTube, right, and this is where I'm getting my information from because I'm not a researcher, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a zoologist, but I'm pretty sure YouTube is fully accurate. But go on to YouTube and like type in like different species of bear or different species of lion, and it shows like, side by side images of like these animals that existed that are now extinct now compared to modern day animals that do exist. And a lot of them, went extinct pretty recently. Like, I think that in North America, there was a lion, a species of lion that lived in North America, and now it's extinct. But I'm pretty sure that there was a species of lion that lived here. And you hear that, you see that, and you're thinking to yourself, like, dude, like, we killed a lot of these fucking animals just to, man is king. But it's like still like shit, like. There was a lot of wildlife that was here that is no longer here. Like I said, man is king, but like there was just a lot more than that we think today. I've seen like documentaries and like shows where they, the bison I think is like a very, very like it's an old animal. Like if you look at a bison or a buffalo, whatever you call it, it's like super woolly. It's like brown wool. It almost reminds you of like it's from like a bygone era. Like it's an animal that did not was not overtly killed. Like when the like during the Ice Age when like cavemen were like a threat to like animals like that. Because it kind of like resembles a little bit of like what a woolly mammoth would look like, at least like with the fur or with its wool, because it's like got that like shaggy brown fur like the woolly mammoths had. Like it is pretty much an animal from a bygone era. It's crazy, but that one survived to this day. It still lives, which is crazy. I mean, obviously, the descendants of the woolly mammoth are elephants, so. But they're in like different parts of the world and stuff. Like they're in like Africa and like India or Asia. Pretty crazy. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we aren't used to that type of traversing wildlife, traversing nature anymore. So if you're not like familiar with like where you're going, I wouldn't like be like, yeah, I mean, let's go. You wouldn't be comfortable in that element. You just wouldn't be, and we're not supposed to be, I truly believe that modern day human beings are not meant to be like wild creatures. For one, our brains are way too sophisticated and we know too much and we can build things with our brains, right? Put things together, build things, engineer, manufacture. Also, like our bodies, we have no hide. We have no fur. Like there's no way that we could survive outside in the cold because our skin is just so exposed. Like we would just freeze to death every time. Like if you think about it, all these animals that live outside, that live in the wild, most of the mammals have fur so that they could, somewhat stay warm, without having to be in a heated area. Like we don't have that. If we were a wild animal, like if we did not have the brain that we had and we were still like a wild beast, right? we would have to live in a, the most, um, I guess warmest climate possible. But even still, in places like in the United States, like we would not still be, we couldn't live in like, uh, the Midwest, the East Coast, right? Because it gets too cold there. Like we would have to burrow and like find caves. Eventually, like we would just have to migrate somewhere warmer where we wouldn't have to do all that. If we were like a wild species, if we were like a wild animal, like how we look today, could not survive any like actual like frigid temperatures without fur. Impossible. So we're kind of like stuck. We're not meant to be living like an animal. Even though we're from this planet, we originated from this planet like all these other species. We are very much different. We're not like them whatsoever. Quite at all, really, if you think about it. Maybe chimps, closest to chimps, but that's about it, though. In terms of like appearance, that's about it. You can't really see much of a resemblance anywhere else besides chimps. It's weird to say. And why did we get the brain power? What happened there? How did that get decided? Was it evolution? Was it creation? I don't know. We don't really know. That's a big question and a bigger picture that we still don't really have the answers to. It kind of baffles me. It also kind of annoys me because I feel like those questions, whether it be, yeah, we were created or yeah, we evolved, right? Like, I just want to know the answers. I want all the answers. I feel like a lot of people out there aren't trying to get the answers, and we're just kind of going by like, oh, well, we think this, or oh, we think that. There's no like, this happened, and that's why we are here. Like, there's none of that. I don't know why there isn't. It can't be that it's too hard to figure out. That can't be the answer, because if that's the answer, then what are we doing? Like, why are we saying that these things are too hard to figure out, but we're trying to do other things that are also hard, but also, succeeding at that. Why is this so different? Why? I don't understand. I just feel like, there's a lot of things out there that we don't know about ourselves, about our planet in general, that we struggle to. It's either like it's this way because other people told us this way, so we can buy into it, so we can believe in that, so we have a purpose, so we have an idea that this is how it all went down, and this is how we are here today. And that's a story that we need to believe in order for us to function in this society that we have created as human beings, with societies, neighborhoods, families, cities, democracies, policies, and ways of life. That this is how it's supposed to be. And this is how it's supposed to stay as long as we live. If we figure out that, let's just say like human beings were like one of the three groups of like humanoid species that ruled the earth, and that ours that are today, we became the dominant species, and the other ones are dead because we killed them all. Like, I know we killed off the Neanderthals. Like, that was one I think that you could actually look up and find. That the reason that the Neanderthals are no more is because human beings, I believe, killed them, or they just ended up dying because they weren't smart enough to adapt to other situations as we were. I'm pretty sure it goes both ways. I'm pretty sure you can find studies and evidence that we killed them, but also that they, died off because they weren't smart enough to tackle, like, hunt down dangerous animals in the ways that we did. I don't know. I'm not too sure. There's no real way to find that information, which sucks, because if there was, God, I would be a part of that. That would be so cool. I think that there was like a program or something that they wanted to do was clone a Neanderthal. Like, clone it, because they have like enough DNA, I think, to actually clone one of those boys. and like see like, I guess maybe if you clone it, perfectly, you could like replicate its conscious. Can you even do that actually? Now that I think about it, like I don't know if you can even do that. Like if you clone a Neanderthal, if you make one in a lab and you're like, you know what? Before we get to cloning dinosaurs, like in Jurassic Park, why don't we clone a Neanderthal and we see what happens? Do you think that one, it would even work? Or two, like it does work and you get a Neanderthal body, but the Neanderthal body does not think, doesn't talk, doesn't have a personality, because then that comes into effect like, well, there's no consciousness in it. You can clone a body, right? Like a meat sack, but it needs a conscious, like that would be crazy, because then that would mean that the conscious is a totally different thing from like anything that we possibly can, fathom. That I think becomes a little bit more into like leaning into uh the theory of like creationism, because creation, is like God made Adam and Eve and then humans became, or God made you in his image, right? He created you, right? By creationism, giving you a soul or a consciousness. He created you. This is you because he created you, right? That's who you are. The way you are is because God made you that way, right? That's the creationist thing. That would actually make more sense though, right? If they were to clone a Neanderthal and it was just a body, like it couldn't move, couldn't control its body, just kind of laid there, like in a stasis, like just in a steady state of breathing. Like, hey, we made one, but did we really make one? Like, it's not like what we thought would happen, right? Because we made it, and it's just nothing. It can't move. It's a vegetable. That'd be interesting though. That kind of makes me think like, have they tried? They probably have. I mean, like, there's so many labs out there, so many scientists that have so many different types, different like theories and different things about how cloning and creation and all that. It doesn't help that there's so much good science fiction out there, also that feeds into that. That feeds into the questions, and the theorizing, and just like thinking. Do we have it all wrong? Right? Can you actually clone something that actually is a human being? Like, what makes you a human being? Yeah, that you have arms and legs and a brain and the capacity to socialize and all that. But also, I feel like what makes us human is our personalities and our personal traits. That's what makes us human, right? I am interested in sports and, video games and music. Some other guy that, let's say he looks kind of like me, could be interested in mathematics or writing or dance or some type of art form that I'm not interested in, but that's part of his personality, and that's part of himself. That's what makes him. But that's what makes us human, is that we are different. Like, there's you, there's me, there's these other people that are all different, that all have different personalities and different consciouses, and how we think about things and how we see things and how we view things, how we react to things or how we don't react to things. It's all different. It's a part of our characteristics though. Like, that's what I think makes us human, And it's so weird though, because if you've ever seen the new Jurassic World movies, The first one is clearly a remake of Jurassic Park with a couple of new things, but it's not until the second one where it gets wild. You know, the whole concept of them cloning dinosaurs, right? Like, that's not like a new concept. They created them in a test tube. They use like genes from like frogs to complete the DNA to clone dinosaurs, to make them in like a way that, you know, in their, it's essentially like their own version of the dinosaurs, right? Because they're not like the actual dinosaurs. And you know what it is that in those movies, in the movies at least, they never really said that these are our dinosaurs. Like this, the company in that movie is called InGen. They never really say in the movies, at least, that these are our versions of dinosaurs. They never said like this is what they look like back then versus now when we made them. It is said that in the books though, in like the first book, like this is their version of a velociraptor, stuff like that. And that isn't brought up until like in Jurassic World, maybe part 1, part 2, or Fallen Kingdom, or the first one, where they like kind of like elaborate like, yeah, these ain't really like the same dinosaurs from like millions of years ago. And in the third movie, there's like scenes, like a scene that like they put in, I think it was like a clip before the movie came out, that is like depicting like this many years ago, and the dinosaurs look completely different. Like they look like they got feathers, they're not as big, and it's like this is what dinosaurs actually look like compared to what they are because humans made them. Anyways, though, in that second movie, there's like a cloned human being. Like they clone a human being. And that was so weird to digest because yes, they're cloning dinosaurs, but I think that when you clone the humans and like that's what it's all about, like this whole big like, you know, plan in that movie, you know, this very key component is cloning, and now we've cloned a human being. I always thought that that was such a weird, like a far stretch, but also it makes complete sense because that's what they're doing from the beginning. They're cloning dinosaurs. Why would they not clone a human in the process? And I was like, well, when you're shown that this person is a clone of somebody that has already passed, I'm pretty sure like the person that she's playing, that the clone is of someone who has died in that world. They just cloned her. Like they had her DNA, and now in this movie she's a child, but she's a clone of this person. So when she grows up, she'll look exactly like this lady who as an adult has already died. I guess that all kind of makes sense. You know, because like, you know, of course they're cloning dinosaurs, but why would they stop there, right? Like you don't just stop, right? Science doesn't like just like have a cutoff where, all right, this is where I'm stopping us because I think that this is where we can stop because we know what we need to know. We don't gotta go any further. That's just not how science works. You know, you keep going and going and going until you find that you can't go no more. And just keep pushing the envelope. Keep pushing the knowledge. Keep pushing your peers to do better, to dig deeper, right? And to continue forward, to find new studies forward, you know, not backwards, and also not stopping. And, you know, I keep saying dig deeper, truly dig deeper. Like archaeologists, geologists, dig deeper. Let's find some more new cool shit of what this place really is. You know, what the planet really has to offer. What really stood here. You know, we talked about extinct animals earlier, right? Short-faced bear, saber-toothed tiger. What else before that? Right? What was really on this earth before us? Is that even possible? Of course it is. You just got to push the envelope. Keep digging. Find more stuff. There's so many things that I think that we haven't really touched on or even scratched the surface of like what truly was here. What about the oceans? Explore those. I mean, like there's so much of the ocean on our own planet that we don't know. I think that we know more about space than we do about the ocean on our very planet, on our very own planet, that we know more about space and planets light years away, millions of light years away, than we do about our own planet or our own ocean on our own planet. Isn't that insane? That's so weird. Why do you think that is? Is there something down there that they don't want us to know? Maybe a secret city such as Atlantis? Could that be a possibility? It definitely could be. 100% could be. Why? I mean, why should it stop there? What else is there? What if there's like we find all these weird fish species when we go deeper into the ocean? Why can't there be other things? Maybe there's a portal. Maybe there's like a black hole there. Maybe there's a dimension under in the ocean that opens to a new world. Now that I think about it, Kong, Godzilla, the new movies that have to deal with like the hollow earth theory, where there's like a world in the center of the world, doesn't seem so crazy when you think about it. I mean, who's to say it's not there? We don't know. Nobody knows. But, if we dig deeper, if we go there, if we try, we'll find out if it is or it isn't. It's that simple. And if it isn't, then it isn't, right? If we can't prove this hypothesis to be real, then it's over. But if there's a shroud that it can be possible, then I think that we have to continue with that shroud. We have a scent. We must follow the scent and track it down, right? If there's something fishy, if something is off to you, you're going to investigate, right? I think that's something that we should be doing with everything that we come across as curious folk, as a curious species, because we are a very curious species. We are. Truly are. Like, we will go to the ends of the earth to find people that have gone missing. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't. But we will continue. We will continue to search, because that's what we do. We are curious. We are I think that we're naturally born curious. Babies are curious about, smells, sounds, new objects that they come across, like a ball or a toy. They're curious about it. We're born curious, I think. I think human beings are born extremely curious. I mean, other animals are born curious as well. This is a curious planet. A very curious planet. That we all, we can't shut off the curiosity. We have to feed it. We have to move forward with it and push it until it can't be pushed no more. Moving on to some news about movies. It was announced last week that James Gunn's Superman Legacy movie that's coming out in July 2025 is now being named just Superman, which I love. I mean, this is such small news to the world, I think, but big news to me. Big, big, big news. I always thought that Superman Legacy, the title that he announced about a year and a half ago, was a solid title, but a little too much. I always thought that it was a title that, might not get a lot of people to watch it. I don't know what it is, but like I feel like it was, especially like if you're in James Gunn's position, where you're trying to relaunch DC Comics, DC's movies, right? After, say what you will about like, some of the movies you might like. The majority of those movies that they put out did not make money for the studio. put the studio in a lot of debt. And their objective for those studios is to make money. And if you're not going to make money, you might not have a studio to work for. So let's just be honest, those movies did not help Warner Brothers whatsoever. They barely turned any profit. I think the one that turned a profit was Aquaman. That one made $1 billion. But besides that, I don't think anything else came close. So it's a daunting task for this man, Mr. Gunn, James Gunn, to relaunch an entire franchise, right? And he's got balls. Like, this guy truly has balls, right? He's doing it. He's rebuilding the entire DC universe in his own DCU and under DC Studios. Like, this is going to be the first movie under his new regime. And like I said, he's got balls. His first movie is Superman, which in my opinion, I think in a lot of people's opinion, is the greatest superhero of all time. Like, Superman is the best superhero, in my opinion, ever. Like, he is the one. Like, when you think of superhero, like, people think Superman. Like, it's pretty ominous. Like, he is like the superhero of the world. And also I think that he's the best one. Like, he's like the stereotypical like hero figure, and what like so many people, associate with their behavior, picture heroes are. Like, he's kind, he's always trying to do the right thing, he cares about others. Like, he is like the superhero. So like, with James Gunn being like, you know what, I'm gonna start a DC universe and I'm gonna make a new Superman, and my movie's gonna be Superman Legacy. Okay, kind of a okay title, pretty good title, but like, I always thought from the beginning, like, dude, just drop the Legacy. Drop Legacy from the title and just go for it. Just call it Superman. I'm pretty sure I said this on this podcast, like when it was announced, but I'm pretty sure I did say that. But if I didn't, I'm going to reiterate it again. Like, him dropping Legacy and just calling it Superman is great news to me, because that means that he is making a movie that you're just going to recognize as Superman and nothing else. Like, no Superman Returns, no Superman this, Superman that, Superman Legacy. Just Superman. That's what it has to be. And honestly, that change from his title made me even more excited to see the movie. Because I think that when he did that, he realized that, you know what I have right here is going to go, should stand the test of time as being the Superman movie out there. Like, I think that he thinks that he has created or crafted a movie that just, all it needs is the title is Superman, and that's it. And listen, I think that, he's been sharing a lot on his social media about like inspiration, art styles of like what he likes as Superman, what he thinks Superman is. And I've been reading it and gobbling it up, and I've been like, you know what? This guy, I think this is going to be a great film. Like, I'm looking at what he's, posting and stuff. I know it's just like social media posts and stuff like that, but it seems like this guy, is super focused, laser focused on this, like, to make this, probably his best movie he's ever made. Certainly, I have to believe, I have to hope that this is like the greatest superhero movie of all time, because it kind of has to be. I mean, you're going to do a movie about Superman to relaunch a franchise, relaunch a universe. Like, you have to make this like the best comic book movie ever made. Like, I don't know like how you can approach this and be like, yeah, this is just another fun movie. Like, this is the greatest superhero of all time. You have to make this the best thing ever. Like, you have to. Like, there's no like way that you can just be like, well, we'll take it easy. Like, this, I know this is like saying like coming off very fanboy-y, but like, he really does have to make this like the best Superman / superhero film of all time. He really does. Like there's no like sugarcoating. It's got to be the best thing ever. It really does, because they're taking such a risk on relaunching this universe with this guy, and already having like this plan to make it even more, even more movies and TV shows and all that, to make this like his vision, which seems to be like, the best version that we could possibly get of DC on the screen. Like, it's just got to be good. It can't be bad. And I think that with his decision to call it Superman is a good sign, because that means he's going for it. Like, you know what? I'm going to make the best Superman movie ever. And I'll just call it Superman. That to me is a boost of confidence. And that's him showing us that he knows what this is about. And what a better title than to just go for it. Just go for it. Superman. That's all you need. That's really all you need. It's going to roll off the tongue a lot better when this movie comes out in a little over a year from now and we want to go watch Superman. You can just say to your family, let's go watch Superman. You don't got to say, let's go watch Superman Legacy. Like, let's go watch Superman. That's just going to sound so much better. That'll be magical. If like the movie is like fantastic and people are like, yo, let's go watch Superman. You and the family, or you and your dad or something. Let's go watch Superman. Like, that's going to be so amazing. So I'm hoping that it's like a great film. And this title change, even though it might seem very small for some people, to me, I think it's a good sign. I really do think so. Next up, Dune Part 2. Review time. Saw it in IMAX as it was intended. And I gotta say, man, I love Dune Part 1. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Great mythology, great science fiction, great action, characters, acting, all that stuff was amazing. Dune Part 2, loved it even more. I was so excited for this movie that I was straight up avoiding social media the day it came out, and the day before on a Thursday, because just too many people were talking about it, posting about it, saying things about it. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to know what's going to happen. I have not read the book, so I need to stay away from social media. And when I got into that theater, and when the lights dimmed, and when it began, I was like, oh my God. You can just tell that the movie, the shooting, the filming of this movie dialed it up even an extra level from what it was, I think, in the first one. Performances, shots, action, especially, dialed to 11. I couldn't believe on how much more, dare I say it, better it looked, better it felt. It just looked even better than the first one. Even though it's in the sand, in the desert, it just looked more realer. And it looked more that there was so much more to the world that you had not seen yet that is shown in this movie. And world building is even more explained and more elaborated on things, that you understand the whole, like how the whole world works, and the different people that are reintroduced and then new ones that are introduced, and how that, goes in with the entire politics and the entire world, and like why people are so obsessed with Arrakis, and the people, why they're like, we gotta, the Fremen are a big problem. Like, it's said in the first movie, like they don't care for the Fremen whatsoever. It's crazy. And then you realize, like, yo, like, there's so much more into it than that's even shown in the first one. It's even in the second part where it's like really, really like shown the like why they just care so much about Arrakis. And dude, like, you're only like teased of, like, in the first movie, like, yeah, Paul Atreides is gonna be the main guy. And he's like kind of easing into, like in the first one, like maybe I am something. Maybe I do have a purpose. Let me try to be with you guys like what my father wanted. But it's only until the second one when you're like, holy shit, this is the Lisan Al Gaib. Like this is Paul Atreides. Like this is the one. And it's like shown in this movie so crazily. And there are some scenes, bro, where my jaw dropped on some of these like realizations and reveals about this dude and the other characters where you're like, oh my God. You're like, Jesus Christ. What am I seeing? It is so crazy. The fact that this movie turns it up to 11 in terms of like mythological and religious themes in a science fiction movie, I love that shit. Because when you bring in like religion and faith with science fiction, it grounds it into such a relatable and realistic approach that it almost feels like this could be real. Like what I'm watching on screen almost seems like something that could be real today. Like someone could probably think this. Someone like, this is like something like a story like someone probably told similar to like what it is in the movie, but like way long ago. Like this is so cool. It's so rooted and grounded. It's like, dude, this is crazy. And by the way, also with that, because it's all about Paul in this movie and what, he is the one and all that shit, all like the themes coming together, people following him and all that shit. I mean, you see in the trailer, he's got like an army with him, he's like, I'm Paul Atreides, Duke of Arrakis. It's like, dude. And Timothy Chalamet's performance in this movie is so like, he like almost becomes like, you can't tell that he's acting. Like he is like Paul Atreides. Like this is a dude who's like realizing all this power that he has and all this, all these followers. And he plays it amazing. But I gotta say also, Austin Butler in this movie, whose character I don't know the name of because I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but he's in this movie. He's a Harkonnen. Dude, I mean, like, Austin Butler has been good in Elvis, Masters of the Air, but in this movie, dude, he stands out so well in the best way possible. Like, he is vicious in this movie. He's insane. I mean, like, it's like one of the, like, he completely transformed into this monster of a character and plays it so well that you're like, oh, that's not even Austin Butler. That's somebody else. That's, like, I believe this dude is just some crazy Harkonnen. Like, it was unbelievable. And the fighting in this movie as well. Like, the fighting choreography and the big set pieces. I mean, you can't even believe what you're seeing sometimes on this screen. And even, like, these smaller scenes that have such importance to them and such, like, gravitas hit you so hard and, like, are so impactful. Like, there's like a small scene in this movie, in this film, that is not like a major set piece, right? It's a smaller scene, but it hits you so hard with, like, realization and big pictureness that you're like, what the fuck? Like, my jaw was dropping because of, like, how important the scene was and how it could have been such a small thing, but Denis Villeneuve is such a big picture filmmaker that he's like, nah, I'm gonna make this whole scene feel big. And it was like, boom, there you go. And it was freaking incredible. I couldn't believe it. And of course, big action set pieces. This film has so many of them. Some of the biggest ones I've seen in a film in a long time. Like, massive, crazy set pieces. I said this in my review of the first film, that it did not feel like this movie was filmed on Earth. Like, it felt like it was actually filmed on Arrakis. And I I continue to say the same thing in this movie. Like, I can't pick out any scene where I'm like, oh, this is like the Sahara Desert, or no, this is like a desert like in California, or the Mojave, right? Dude, none of this movie looks like it was filmed on Earth. None of it. And it just goes to show you that this dude had a vision of this movie being like nothing you've ever seen before, truly making it like that, and executing the plan. Like, he did an incredible job of immersing you literally in Arrakis. With, like, I'm talking like, from sun up to sundown in this, time frame of this movie where it takes place, like, none of it feels like you're on Earth. The immersion, the escapism is beautiful in this movie. It's just absolutely breathtaking. And not to mention the performances. Every performance in this movie is incredible. There is a performance in particular, I won't say who it's from, and won't say it in what moment, but literally, like, this one little shot of this person's face, their reaction to what happens, I won't say what it is, but it was like some of the best acting I've ever seen. And it was so subtle, but it was incredible. Like, that just shows you, like, how good, like, all the acting was. Like, even this small little frame that is shown in this movie, but the weight that it had to it was met. Like, it was not half-assed. Like, you got, like, the beat there, that the emotional beat right there, then and there in that small frame, that it hit me. I was like, holy shit! Like, it was incredible. Couldn't believe it. This movie's unbelievable. I was watching it, and it kept going and going and going and hitting me with great shot and great lines of dialogue and great moments. And I'm like, oh my God. Couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I saw. It was that good. So, with that being said, man, so far, best movie I've seen in the year. Best sci-fi movie probably I've ever seen. Like, with the mixture of, like, the spirituality, the religious, faithful, all that stuff, and, like, space, and, this dude being the one guy, it's, like, probably the best thing I've ever seen. Like, it's seriously, like, one of the better movies I've ever seen. Like, just me talking about it and me remembering what I saw, these shots and, like, these scenes, like, holy hell, like, this thing was incredible. I mean, like, I don't really think that anything really comes close in terms of, like, sheer epic. Maybe Return of the King, like, that's like the one, but this might be, like, right behind it. Like, this probably is, like, oh, dude, like, I almost, like, want to fucking, like, write off Star Wars, but, like, this thing is almost, like, better. It's insane. Like, I don't want to think that way, because that's, like, they shouldn't be comparable, but in terms of, like, execution of story and, like, character, like, dude, I mean, like, there's nothing really like this movie. Like, it's just insane. It's insane. It's incredible. I loved it. I can't, like, the scenes in my head of, like, some of these scenes are just embedded in my brain of, like, the importance and, like, what you feel. And watching it on IMAX, there's not another way to watch this film. There's not another way to watch it, I don't think. Like, I mean, this will be nominated for Best Picture, and it should win. Like, I'm looking at the scope of what's coming out in, like, at least, like, the next 4 months. Nothing looks even remotely close to being as good as Dune Part 2. Nothing. And I think that this movie, it had a great box office debut. I hope it continues to make money, because it certainly deserves the money, because this thing truly was an epic sci-fi masterpiece. Probably the best sci-fi thing I've ever seen in my life. If you put Dune 1 and Dune 2, a double feature showing, that might be, like, the best, like, close to the best, like, 5 hours you could spend, because it's just really that good. It's incredible. I can't believe, like, how good this movie, how incredible this movie is. This movie's incredible. So final review, Dune Part 2, 11.2 out of 10. You can catch my review on X. It's up there. Dune Part 2, 11.2 out of 10. Long live cinema. That's all I got to say. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today. People, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. New episodes drop every Thursday morning. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate, review, and do all that good stuff. And yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see you guys next week.